Farming is the oldest profession on earth. For 10,000 years, the rule of nature was simple. You plant a seed, it grows into a crop, you harvest it, and you save some seeds to plant again next year. It is a cycle of life that belongs to no one. It is a gift from nature. But what if I told you that this cycle has been broken? What if I told you that a single corporation managed to do something that God himself never did? They figured out how to put a barcode on nature. They figured out how to patent a seed, and then they used that power to turn the fields of India into a graveyard. This is the story of Monsanto, now owned by the German giant Bayer. It is the story of the suicide seeds. And it is the story of how the quest to own our food supply created the greatest human rights crisis you have never heard of. To understand this tragedy, you have to go to the heart of India, specifically the region of Vidarbha. It used to be known as the Cotton Belt. Today it is known by a darker name, the Suicide Belt. Since the mid-1990s, an estimated 300,000 Indian farmers have taken their own lives. That is a number so big it is hard to comprehend. It is the largest wave of recorded suicides in human history, and it happened because of a promise that turned into a lie. In the late 1990s, Monsanto entered the Indian market. They brought with them a new high-tech invention, Bt cotton. This was a genetically modified organism, GMO. Monsanto told the poor farmers of India that this was white gold. They claimed this seed was magic. They said it was immune to pests like the bollworm. They promised it would double or triple their harvests. They promised it would make them rich. The marketing was aggressive. They used Bollywood stars. They put up posters in every village. The farmers, desperate to escape poverty, believed them. They stopped using their traditional seeds they had saved for generations for free, and bought the magic seeds. But there was a catch. Monsanto's seeds were expensive. In some cases, they cost 1,000 times more than the local seeds. To afford them, the illiterate farmers had to go to the moneylenders. They borrowed huge sums of money at crazy interest rates, sometimes 60% or 70%. They mortgaged their land. They sold their wife's gold jewelry. They thought it was an investment. They thought the magic seed would pay off everything. But Monsanto didn't tell them the whole truth. They didn't tell them that these GMO seeds were incredibly thirsty. They required huge amounts of water and expensive fertilizers to grow properly. Most Indian farmers rely on rain. They don't have fancy irrigation systems. So when the rains were late, or when a drought hit, the Monsanto plants withered and died. The traditional Indian seeds were tough. They could survive a drought, but these new corporate seeds were weak divas. They failed, and then the bugs came back. Nature adapts. The pests developed resistance to the GMO seeds, so the farmers had to buy even more expensive pesticides, often sold by the same company. The farmers were trapped in a cycle of debt. But here is the most evil part of the design. For 10,000 years, if a farmer had a bad year, he could at least save the seeds from the surviving plants to try again next year. It cost him nothing to restart. But with Monsanto seeds, replanting is illegal. Monsanto owns the intellectual property of the seed. They have patents. In many places, farmers sign contracts forbidding them from saving seeds. And biologically, many of these hybrid seeds are designed not to reproduce effectively. So every single year, the farmer has to go back to the company. He has to pay the premium price again. Imagine if you bought a car, but you had to pay the full price of the car every single year just to drive it. That is the Monsanto model. The farmers of India found themselves in a death trap. The crops failed. The debts piled up. The moneylenders came knocking, threatening to take their land. The shame was unbearable, so they made a horrific choice. They would walk out into their fields, the fields that were supposed to make them rich, and they would pick up a bottle of pesticide, and they would drink it, It is a slow, agonizing death, but thousands of them saw it as the only way to escape the shame of debt. In Vidarbha, it became a routine. Every day the newspapers reported fresh suicides. Wives were left widows. Children were left orphans. And what did Monsanto do? Did they apologize? Did they lower the price? No. They blamed the farmers. They said the farmers were using the seeds wrong. They said they didn't water them enough. They focused on their profits. Monsanto became so powerful that they essentially bought the system. They bought up the local seed companies. In many parts of India, you couldn't even find traditional seeds if you wanted to. The monopoly was total. Vandana Shiva, a famous Indian activist, calls this seed slavery. She argues that by controlling the seed, corporations control life itself. If you control the food supply, you control the people. Monsanto defenders say that GMOs are necessary to feed the world. They point to yields that have increased in some areas, and it is true, technology can help agriculture, but technology should serve the farmer, not enslave him. When a company patents a gene, they are claiming ownership over evolution. They are saying that they created life, but they didn't create the seed, they just modified it. This isn't just an Indian problem. This is a global warning. In the United States, Monsanto, now Bayer, has sued hundreds of small farmers. If pollen from a GMO farm blows in the wind and lands on a neighbor's organic farm, Monsanto can sue the organic farmer for stealing their patented genetics. They have an army of lawyers. They have drones monitoring fields. They have a hotline where neighbors can snitch on each other. It is a corporate police state enforced on the food we eat. In 2018, the German pharmaceutical giant Bayer bought Monsanto for $63 billion as they dropped the name Monsanto because it was so hated. They wanted to hide the history. But you cannot hide the graves in India. The suicide crisis in India continues. It is a complex problem involving banks, weather, and government policy. But at the center of it is the seed, the fundamental unit of survival that was turned into a unit of profit. We need to ask ourselves a simple question. Who owns nature? Does a corporation have the right to patent a living thing? Does a company have the right to design a system where a farmer must go into debt just to plant a crop? The farmers of India are the canaries in the coal mine. They are dying to warn us. If we allow a handful of companies to own the world's seeds, we lose our food freedom. We become dependent on a system that cares only about the shareholder, never about the person who tills the soil. Next time you bite into a meal, remember where it comes from. Remember that food is not just a product, it is the result of a struggle, and in the cotton fields of India, that struggle is a matter of life and death.